same aircraft can release experimental chemical additives in the air as chemical contrails or chemtrails. In this way, government agencies can either manipulate the weather or counteract global warming.
But some people claim chemtrails are harming an unsuspecting public. Eyewitnesses and researchers who believe in chemtrails say that jet contrails don't vanish within minutes as they once did. They now linger and spread, sometimes for hours, forming strange, suspicious patterns. Rosalind Peterson is one of those believers.
It's not normal for us. It's a grand experiment.
Peterson lives in Northern California near San Francisco. At one time, she worked for the State Department of Agriculture. Part of her job involved being aware of environmental issues.
I first started noticing unusual contrails in 2002 when it was brought to my attention by a friend of mine. He took me outside of his office and we began to look at these persistent jet contrails.
Peterson thought she saw a connection between aircraft activity and reports of chemically contaminated water in communities throughout California.
There were unusual high spikes in chemicals and heavy metals.
Barium, aluminum, manganese, magnesium, zinc. And I suspect that we're getting the pollution from something in the atmosphere that's being released.
Peterson became so alarmed about the chemical contrails that she formed an organization called California Skywatch, a group dedicated to clean air.
I started documenting what I was seeing. I took pictures on my breaks. I took pictures at lunch hour. I started to really get angry because our once deep blue skies were no longer deep blue. They would turn into a white haze.
And they would turn into these man-made clouds blocking the sunlight.
Peterson discovered that she wasn't alone in her concerns. Hundreds of websites revealed that persistent airplane contrails had become a worldwide problem.
I started then to research internet sites and government agencies, the EPA, NOAA, NASA, the United States Air Force. I learned that there was a lot of atmospheric heating and testing programs going on. I learned that there was lots of equipment that would leave these type of persistent plumes and spray chemicals.
Will Thomas is an investigative journalist who believes that some contrails are part of secret atmospheric experiments. He's been writing about them for over 10 years.
This is a deliberate project to slow down global warming. These trails were appearing over rural areas, away from navigational beacons and normal air routes. They would appear for weeks at a time and then disappear entirely, only to reappear months later, unlike normal scheduled air traffic.
Thomas believes chemical contrails are an indication that someone is using jet emissions to engineer the weather and slow climate change.
The problem with chemtrails is that when we attempt to geoengineer and interfere with complex, interrelated atmospheric processes, we are in for unintended consequences on a major scale.
Geoengineering is the artificial manipulation of Earth's environment on a large scale. In the early 1990s, American nuclear physicist Edward Teller was among the first scientists to model an experiment that would address the issue of global warming.
He speculated that aluminum oxide could be injected into the upper atmosphere. It would act like tiny mirrors and deflect a portion of the sun's rays back into space. Supposedly, it was never put into practice. But activists believe the government has revived Teller's theory with some dire health consequences.
Some of the literal fallout from this chemtrail project are these 10-micron particulates falling by the megaton on unsuspecting people, plants, and wildlife. Now, a human hair is 100 microns across. 10 microns is submicroscopic. It can impact our lungs, it can inflame our hearts, give us heart disease, leading to fatalities. So this
Material comes down randomly in invisible clumps.
Dave Dickey also believes in chemtrails. As a landscape contractor for a large city, he spends a lot of time out of doors.
Contrail development is different than it ever has been in the past. And I do remember one in January for about 2002.
Where the number of flights overhead were extremely unusual. The number of contrails in the sky was unbelievable. We're counting 40 to 60 flights. And
solar radiation
out of those 40 to 60
management.
flights, most of them left an incredibly persistent large plume which would spread out and cover over the sky.
As a landscaper, Dickey has to be familiar with the types of trace chemicals usually found in the environment. He regularly takes water and soil samples and has them tested.
There was some research done that claimed that aluminum oxide could be used to reduce global warming.
Cool.
And I thought that if there was any chance that aluminum oxide would be used in the atmosphere, that it would show up in precipitation.
He collected rain samples on days when he noticed heavier than usual air traffic and took them to a lab.
And I expected to see baseline measurements where aluminum would show up in precipitation at about 0.0093 milligrams per liter. Very small amount of aluminum naturally present in precipitation. It was 20 times higher approximately than what was expected to find.
Dave Dickey believes that what he captured was the fallout from chemically laden contrails.
I was really hoping that we find natural water samples. And when I did find aluminum and barium, it's just another one of the indicating factors that something was unusual.
Theoretically, scientists can cool the Earth using chemical compounds placed in the upper atmosphere. But could other substances be put there for more ominous purposes?
Damn right.
Military victory or defeat can depend on the weather. A commander who can control the weather has a weapon as powerful as any air force. During the Vietnam War, the U.S. military began seeding
Clouds along the Ho Chi Minh Trail to create floods and wash out North Vietnamese supply routes. It was known as Operation Popeye, and crews flew over 2,000 spray missions.
I was told initially by a friend, he said his brother was in the military service. He said when there is these heavy spray days when there's lots of persistent contrails to keep his family inside, when they were outside exposed, to have them go in and take showers. And he couldn't talk about it. He couldn't explain more than that.
With the weather, and again, I focus on the weather a lot because I feel mathematically, rationally, if all the data is examined,
the greatest threat to each and every one of us, short of nuclear cataclysm, which we have happening now as well, is climate engineering, because you can't escape it. You can't walk out your door and take a breath without inhaling what the climate engineers are spraying.
So, yes, we face a lot of threats, but nothing can match that threat that's systematically decimating the entire web of life. How long can you hold your breath? So, yes, the climate engineers continue to wreak havoc around the globe. The weather whiplash will continue as the U.S. and around the globe, the climate engineering programs are ramped up to ever larger levels. We're going to see radical temperature swings that will continue. These radically warm temperatures to a very short, brief, intense cool-off as they chemically ice nucleate material going further into winter. I'll talk about.
Okay, here we are in Eureka. And, gee, what's this truck over here by the side of Highway 101? You're being sprayed like a bug. Get informed. Geoengineeringwatch.org. So let's talk to this guy and see what he says. $16 so. And the nanoparticulate aluminum is, the size of these particles is 100 times smaller than a particle of cigarette smokes. This can go transdermally into your skin, directly through your lungs, into your blood. It gathers in tissues, and Alzheimer's and all these aluminum-related diseases are a coincidence. Well, I don't believe they are. But. Okay, so here's this article. It was, what is it? Alternative News and Commentary, revealing the true state of the nation. U.S. government spraying tons of toxic coal ash into the atmosphere via chemtrails or aerosol spraying. Coal ash used in chemtrail or geoengineering aerosols. Geophysicists produce conclusive evidence. And so apparently there is now a geophysicist who's proved that some of this stuff in our air is actually coal ash. And so what is coal ash anyway? This looks like, here's the author, Marvin Herndon, and apparently he's done several studies and found that this stuff is in our air. And so let's see if we can find out what it says here, what exactly coal ash is. Okay, what does it contain? Industrial burning process produces 4 types. Industrial coal burning produces 4 types of coal combustion residuals: fly ash, bottom ash, boiler ash, and flue ash, desulfurization product. Flue gas, desulfurization product. Gypsum, bottom ash, micron particles that would go up in the smokestack unless captured and stored. Because of its well-known adverse environmental health effects, Western nations now mandate that coal combustion fly ash is captured and stored. So, the environmentalists on the ground, supposedly everybody except for the government, I guess, or whoever's running these spraying programs, and these are all artificial clouds here. There was a bank that came in from the coast, and then they were spraying along the coastal mountain ranges, and then these clouds appeared. So let's see, some of the more toxic and potentially poisonous elements are arsenic, barium, beryllium, boron, cadmium, chromium, cobalt, lead, manganese, mercury, molybdenum, selenium, thallium, thorium, vanadium, and uranium. Why the EPA would permit the incineration of systematic, widespread spraying of coal ash based on aerosols containing arsenic, mercury, thallium, thorium, uranium is anyone's guess. Such a practice is in direct violation of so many EPA rules and regulations that it certainly defies explanation. So that's what's in our air, guys. Is anybody gonna do anything about it? Or you just like, hello? Anybody out there? This stuff is falling all over it's being done all over the world. It's been done all over the world? Yeah, when I was on Facebook for 6 months on this, within 6 months I probably had 500 friends from most every country in the world, probably not Iran or Cuba, but almost every country there is an organization opposing geoengineering, or the common person's name for it is chemtrail, but that's not what we like to call it, because it's not a chemtrail, it's solar radiation management, SRM. How many people do you think know about this spraying going on up here? Speculation. Boy, I don't know. I really don't know. I'm hoping more, because this is, in my opinion, people point to like, Watergate as some big cover-up. This is, in my opinion, is the biggest cover-up in human history. The whole planet is being sprayed 24/7 by something and by someone, and no one's talking about it, and no one knows the answer. I mean, hello? Don't they have to give an environmental impact report about the stuff they do to our environment? That's a good question. One of the first things I did, because I know the flight traffic into Humboldt County, is I would start noticing these flights, and then I would go to flighttracker.com, a real-time, website where you can see the planes flying. Well, only the local flights that I'm aware of, like y'all are, and the Arcado Airport, show. So these flights don't show on Flight Tracker, so they must be military, because they don't need to say anything about where they are. So, do the military need to do an environmental impact statement? I don't know. We were set. I think they may be exempt. Yeah, I think so. I mean, we were shooting spent plutonium in the midst of our troops. Yeah, and I've heard that some police pack that kind of ammo here in the U.S. Yeah. Well, that I didn't know. I know when I moved up here, I was taking forestry classes. I had 2 guys who were dying of brain cancer from Agent Orange, and the irony of that was the timber companies were spraying 240 at the time. This is back in the early 70s, but that's a different issue. Not that it isn't as horrendous, but that's a sort of gotten me involved. I don't like being sprayed, because I can choose to smoke or not, but this goes on, and we're all breathing it in, folks. And these clouds are now covered up. We could see the trails earlier today, but they quickly wash out and become what people think are clouds. I call them an aerosol bank, because it's not water, it's not a cloud. It's powdered aluminum and whatever else. It's the truth, folks. Do the congressmen and the local representatives know about this stuff that's going on? Oh, they have to absolutely know. They have, I don't know how to say it, a gun to their head to keep quiet. That's, I'm a common I'm working stiff. That's the term I would use. They're being leaned on heavy by someone, so they don't speak.
So maybe they're just waiting for their, what, retirement?
Oh yeah, I think that's it. Now the, scientists and people, for the most part, there has been Megan Kristen, who was in the military. She was a young mother, and she blew. But I mean, under Obama regime, he's put more whistleblowers into jail, so than the other presidents combined. So I think, reasonably people are spooked to talk about it. I'm just to the point, I have children and grandchildren. I'm 62, and life is important, but I can no longer look at the planet being raped. That's how it feels. I feel like I'm watching the planet being molested, and if I don't do anything, then I'm part of the problem.
What do you think the average person can do now to bring more awareness to this?
I think, it's like any of these things, we need to reach a critical mass of so that people, we get enough people, go to the streets. I mean, I was part